So, Xbox has been on firefighting duty this week, I see. The podcast has happened. Some things have been debunked, other things have been confirmed, and let's just get straight into it. Hi everybody, I'm your host Tyrus, and welcome to LOD Xtra episode 3. Now this week we're going to talk a bit about the podcast. We're not going to make a whole episode about it. It was quite straightforward. Not as much information as I thought we were going to get, but we got plenty. At least 4 games are confirmed to be going cross-platform. But one of the reasons that Phil Spencer mentioned, I think, is a pretty good one, and I can totally understand that one. Helping fund sequels, continued game development, stuff like that. I think that's a totally viable reason. I mean, a fair few years ago, PlayStation 4 generation still, where the old PlayStation boss, Sean Layden, actually said that the current, AAA development way things are isn't sustainable. Every generation the games get dearer and dearer and dearer to produce. Hell, I think recently, even without a generational leap, they've got dearer and dearer to produce. So I think he's right. And with Xbox being in third place, having the numbers that they do, and even with releasing them on PC, there's still 2 massive platforms, which there's money on the table, and there's no Xbox games there, obviously, to get any of that money. Now, Xbox has been more than just a box for a few years now. xCloud, the PC, day one stuff. I mean, Xbox is more of a platform now than just a box, and the box being the platform. I actually think this is a good thing. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the 4 games are, and obviously if any of them are up my street and I have the spare cash at the time, then of course I will support them and buy them on my PlayStation 5, even though they are probably going to be on Game Pass anyway. Probably. They are first party. If they're first party, they're definitely going to be on Game Pass. Sarah Bond said something which made the rest of the podcast feel like somebody's just muted it to me. All first party will go in the Game Pass day one. And I had to listen to that a few times. I may be saying it slightly different. It may not be exactly hers word for word. I'll cut in here and let you hear it from her mouth. Now, I have not messed with it. I have cut it from the start and I've cut it at the end. That is it. I have not touched it. This is exactly what she said. So, I'm a happy man. I know for a fact now that with that being the case, there will be a lot of instances now where I will save myself a good bit of money, and both myself and my sons will all have access to these games and play them happily. Diablo 4 is a great one right now. She also announced that Diablo 4 would be going into Game Pass at the end of this month. Time of recording this is the 19th of February, so by the end of this month, Diablo 4 will be in Game Pass. Now, I have Diablo 4 on my PS5. I've had it since launch. It was a present from my wife, because she knew how much I loved Diablo 3. I bought it on PlayStation 3 back in the day when it first came out, and then recently bought Diablo 2, 3, and 3's DLC in one bundle. I think it was the Ultimate Edition of the second one that came on that, I believe. So, one of the things about Diablo is that I enjoyed playing with other people. Now, Diablo 4, I haven't even completed the main campaign because I just get bored. Now, it's not boredom about the game. I think the game is fantastic. The lore is unbelievable. The world is dark, grey, bloody. I'm just bored playing on my own. You know what I mean? So with it coming into Game Pass and the fact that it's cross-play, then I'd be able to play with my son, Jaden. My 14-year-old son, by the way. I'm not going to let my 6-year-old play Diablo 4. No way. So with situations like this coming up, I mean, at Christmas, every year at Christmas, I'm out nearly £200 before I even look at Christmas presents or anything in specifics, because both myself and my son plays Call of Duty. So obviously I play it on my PlayStation because I like the haptic feedback and the feature from the controllers, whereas my son gets it for the Xbox because he doesn't have a PS5. Yes, he has asked for one, but when you say to your youngest daughter that you don't really have the money to buy her an Xbox, and then she hears her brother ask for a PlayStation, it's going to cause a row. So it's kind of like, no and no. Behave. So it would save money. I don't even think I would buy it. If it's on Game Pass and I can just download onto my Series X and play it, then why spend the money? Now, I know there's some people that are still going to be a bit humming and hawing. Is Call of Duty too big a game to go on to Game Pass? I mean, like, she said it. All first party. They consider Activision Blizzard King as first party now, the same as they do with Bethesda. So we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. But the proof will be in the pudding, because some people can't listen. So when they see it, then obviously they'll have to believe it. Activision Blizzard King has an insane backlog of other IP, which would be brilliant. The likes of Starfield and stuff, Starcraft, I would love to see another couple of RTSs hit Xbox, because I have a love for RTS games. Back in the day, whenever I played PC over console, that's what I played. Likes of Star Trek Armada, early Command and Conquers, like that's what I played. Brilliant RTS games. And there's just not that many on console these days. There are a few good ones that look cracker, but they're just PC. There just must not be enough of a crowd to, make them financially viable for console, or them being independently developed. They maybe just don't have the time, the money, or the backing to put them on the console, which either's a good reason. Another thing I just want to drop in here, I'm not too sure if I'm going to get yapped at or not for this, but our very own T. Wild has announced that he's going to be a father. And I just wanted to say, because obviously I can't say it in person, he lives in England, I live in Northern Ireland. It's not like I can walk across a bridge, Lewis. So congratulations, Tom. Congratulations to both you and your wife, and I hope to see a baby in a Dragonborn onesie. Hint, hint. Oh well, again, congratulations. I'm actually excited for yous, because I never got to go through the whole first baby thing. Some will know, when myself and my wife became an item, my oldest daughter was 1 year old. Now she's my daughter because I took her on as my daughter, and me and Jenna raised her. We got married, we changed her name, stuff like that. She is, by all intents and purposes, my daughter, and that'll never change. So I miss the whole first baby panic stuff, because you're You're going to think you're doing something wrong, but at the end of the day, anytime that happens, the best people to decide what's best and stuff like that is both yourself and your wife. Don't let anybody else, any naysayers online, nothing like that. Don't let anybody tell you you're doing something wrong. If you feel like you're doing something wrong, then you are. Good luck. Jesus Christ, having a baby in 2024, that's going to be dear as all hell. Back to the gaming. Before I get a random phone call telling me to shut up because their ears are burning. I thought about something that got announced, which actually scared me a little bit. I nearly didn't record this because I was a bit creeped out. The last episode, we talked about IP that Sony could maybe bring back, or that I thought could maybe do better. Today, with like modern graphics engines and people's changed tastes and stuff like that, right? And I said that Resistance 3 was the only Resistance game on the PlayStation that you could play anymore, unless you still obviously had a PlayStation 3. I don't even think it was a couple of days after that episode went live that Bend Studios announced that at the end of this month, I think it's the 20th, I think it's actually tomorrow, that Resistance Retribution, the PSP Resistance game set between 1 and 2, that they developed for the PlayStation Portable, is coming out in PlayStation Plus. I think it's premium. I think it's getting into the classics. But that's full trophy support. It's had all the treatment. It'll have analog stick support, obviously. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, right now I'm pulled between Helldivers 2, which is £35, by the way. That's a steal. And this Resistance Retribution. Because, yeah, I'm all in on Resistance. I have both the books. Used to have them physical, but one of them fell apart and the other one disappeared. Children, it's probably lying somewhere coloured in. So I have both the books digital. I have the 3 PlayStation 3 games. I'm soon to have the PSP one. All I need now is Burning Skies, and I will have every Resistance game ever made and every book. That's how much I love those games. I wonder, are we ever going to get PlayStation Vita games on PS Plus in any shape or form, be it streaming like the PS3 games, or just re-releasing them so you can download them and play them? I mean, there is still a touchpad on the DualSense, so any games that are dependent on, touch and stuff, like Tearaway would be a good example. You can still play it, I think. Was there not a touchpad in the back of the PS Vita as well? Have I forgotten something? Well, potentially. You could see plenty of PlayStation Vita games on the PlayStation 5. Like, I'm not saying like remakes and stuff like that. Like, I mean, just ported. It could happen. I mean, we're getting bloody PSP games like now. God, I remember my PSP. I had the original model. I had the slimmer model. I don't think it was ever actually called the Slim, but it had a cheaper screen. Was that a cheaper screen? Or am I thinking the Vita? That's how long ago it was. Whoa. I had a Gen 1. My wife had a pink one. Yeah, that's back when Jenna still played some games. Liberty City Stories, which I hear Tom's playing. Phenomenal. I think there's a Vice City Stories, or I'm not 100% sure. I know there was 2 Stories GTA games. There was Chinatown Wars, but that was like a DS game. Don't think I've ever actually played it. There was a Metal Gear game that came out for the PSP. That was the dearest PSP game I ever bought. I barely played it because I just could not control it using the D-pad and one analog stick and stuff like that. Like, it just, the control scheme for the PSP for some games, at least, rendered them completely not enjoyable to me at all. Like that Metal Gear game, it could have been one of the best Metal Gear games they ever made, but I'm never gonna know because I couldn't bloody play it. When the PSP Go came out, I think that was Sony's first attempt at an all-digital console, or no, sorry, handheld. And I did buy it because at the time, the games I was playing, I had purchased and downloaded onto my PSP. There wasn't really many shops in Larne at the time that sold PSP games. There was some, but they prioritized obviously the big systems that sold a lot. PS3, 360, stuff like that. When the PS3 came out, it just, in the local store I used to go to, it just dwarfed the PSP, and it went from having like a few big long shelves to like one at the end of each aisle, which was either UMD movies, which the selection never really updated, or a selection of the biggest games. And once the biggest games, rotated to the next game, the copies that were left over from the initial purchase in were all that was there. The trade-in was also ridiculous because when you traded them in, there was a couple of times I seen a game that I wanted and I thought, oh, they don't have it new, let's check the trade-in. And because that many people were asking for them, when they traded in, you were still getting peanuts for it, but they were asking more than what it cost to buy the thing initially. Which, I hate that behaviour. It's awful. It's predatory. So, PSP for me faded when it came to the physical stuff. PSP Go had more storage, potentially more storage, I think it was, than the PSPs. I think it could handle bigger memory cards or something. I think that's what it was that got me to buy it. But again, even it flopped, and then eventually the PSP just sort of died down. The Vita, I got the Vita. I didn't get it at launch. I waited a little bit. I wanted Black Ops Declassified, but obviously I wasn't going to buy it for one game. But when Resistance Burning Skies was announced for it, I just went and bought it that day. Literally, as soon as I saw the trailer, onto the Argos website, boom, 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 paid, reserved, picked it up, went down to got it, brought it up, and set it beside my PlayStation 3. Can't remember if it was a 3 or a 4. And it sat there until Burning Skies came out, and then I opened it. Burning Skies was my first PS Vita Platinum. The multiplayer for it was simple. Like, it wasn't like Black Ops Declassified's multiplayer. It was cracker. Nuketown in Black Ops Declassified multiplayer was just, yeah, I just sat. I would charge the PS Vita. While I was at work, I would come home from work, get the kids their dinner, do their homeworks with them. Well, help my wife do their homeworks with them, get everything cleaned up, blah, 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 walk the dog, and then I would sit on Black Ops Declassified on the Vita until the battery died. And then I would do it again. And I'd done that for about a month. I didn't play nothing. My PlayStation 3 wasn't turned on. I remember getting messages from friends thinking that something had happened to me because it never even so much as got turned on. Jaden was that young at the time. He wasn't playing games yet. So Bethany wasn't really into PlayStation. She liked playing Kinect stuff on the 360. So any of my PlayStation friends were like, "Where's Terrace? Something happened. Does anybody have his phone number?" Blah de blah de blah. So yeah, I ended up realizing that I just completely and utterly blanked the main system and was just obsessed with the Vita for a while. Now, once I'd finished Burning Skies, once I'd had my fill of Black Ops Declassified, in my opinion, the only game I was waiting for was Killzone Mercenaries, which in the end I never got to play because it took that bloody long to come out that I ended up just selling my Vita. I played the Uncharted game. I think it's Golden Abyss you call it. Loved it. But once I'd completed it, it wasn't something that had any replay value to me. So once I'd done it, completed it, I didn't look at it again. Which was a problem for me with a handheld if the game didn't have any replayability once it was done, because they weren't all like long games. Some of them were on the shorter side. Like some of the ones that looked phenomenal were quite short. Some of the ones that were quite long were like JRPGs that didn't look overly mentally fantastic but held up all right. But that's not what I wanted. You know what I mean? There's very few JRPG series that I even put up with, in the sense that they just cringe the hell out of me. Like I'll go back to play Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. I don't know. Just whenever I take the notion, and I loved it from when I was a kid, and even now they hold up all right for what they are. But just JRPGs just really isn't my thing, you know. So the Vita got plenty of those, just not plenty decent games. I mean, the first party support from Sony was just dramatic and abysmal, and there's many other colourful words. So basically, if you bought a Vita, Sony just told you to assume the position. You got a couple of good games and they expected you to be happy about it. Now, the life the Vita had the last few years with just the indie support, like, see, that was incredible. It was like a little subculture just sort of formed around the Vita. Devs were making specifically for the Vita. And like, no, they weren't big mad games, but they done all right. They sold, they kept it alive. People were happy. That was cracker. But you know, for me, if I'm not getting the first party stuff that holds my attention, then I don't know. I just stop playing. I mean, thanks to Game Pass, in particular, I've played more indie games than I ever did in the past, or probably ever would have, because there's a lot of smaller indie games which I have played and loved that normally I would just scroll past them. That's just plain and simple. I think I've just went off on another tangent again. Apologies. This is supposed to be Xbox now. I'm talking about PlayStation quite a bit. Now, I think this is where we're going to have to call it for this episode. There wasn't a whole lot of information from, obviously, Xbox's podcast. I do still believe firmly that it's a good idea that games come out on other systems. I do think that we still need a few things that are exclusive. I mean, why buy the particular system if you can get them on everything? And then if they can find a smart way of sort of counteracting that, then I would buy one system fits all sort of thing. That would be class. Now, they have said, like internally, I don't think they've said it publicly, that Xbox, the plan is still to make hardware. So at least for this next generation coming up, there will be an Xbox box. But how the gaming industry is gonna look even 4 years from now is anybody's guess. There's so much changing. It's some fast, some painful, some setting fans in a tailspin, like the rumour for the Xbox games. But I think it's positive, the fact that they are trying to change, the fact that they are trying to innovate and grow the audience, because consoles have like a glass ceiling. I think it's the same kind of people that buy them. And I don't think any console's ever gonna beat the sheer behemoth number that the PlayStation 2 achieved, because I don't think people, I don't know, it's really hard to put it into words. I just don't feel that people's tastes are the same anymore. I mean, my older two kids, they were all in on the consoles when they were younger. Jaden still is now. Bethany's obviously grew up. She has her own habits, likes, dislikes, stuff like that. But there's a lot of younger ones that they just sit on tablets and phones. The kids don't even play the same as they used to. So even in adults, I mean, there's lots of young guys, adults now, that when I was their age, I gamed. Yes, sure, I drank a little bit. I gamed, I trained, I worked. But now it's like, it's just hard. It's like the culture's changing and shifting and bending and breaking and becoming something different. And people's tastes along with it. It's very, very hard for me to put into words. But I don't think consoles are the future. I think maybe in a few generations there won't be any. Not as we know them now. Let me know what you think in the comments below, or yeah, I know. Yes, let me know in the comments below if you think this is pipe dream, or if you think in a few years that we could actually, a few generations, we could actually see a whole new way of playing games. I mean, a great example of this is the iPhone 15, which is playing Resident Evil Village. The actual game, like, obviously it's not going to have as fancy the graphics as the actual systems or even a powerful PC, but it's a way for people to play it without having to own a box. Yes, sure, you have a counter argument there that the iPhones are stupidly expensive, which everything's stupidly expensive right now. Cost of living crisis and all that. Phones especially are ridiculous money. Like, I remember you used to be able to get a flagship phone for like 800 something pound. Now, a flagship is never less than £1,000. And like, say you want the biggest model, like, because I take a contract out for a few years. Oh, I'm recording on my phone. I was looking for my phone there, because I take a contract out for my phone, I get the best of what I can get, because I'm going to be paying for it for 3 years anyway. So I got mine is a 14 Pro Max, which I'm also recording using. That was stupid money. If my wife had told me how much it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have got it. I maybe would have got something else, but iPhones are extremely expensive, man. So all this gaming media, the future of gaming is phones. It's like, yeah, everybody's future's debt and bank loans and 3-year contracts just to get a phone to play a game. I don't think that's feasible. I don't think the gaming media is even putting that into account, because I just don't hear it. You know, when you see the videos when they were talking about the iPhones and how amazing it is that technology is catching up and getting better and improving, it's like, what about the cost attached to it, man? I mean, people can't afford a flipping Xbox on their own right now. And you think people are going to have the money for a fucking £1,000 phone? Yeah, for me, there's a little disconnect between things right now. People are like, oh, this is amazing, this is the future. I mean, if it's that expensive now, what's it going to be like in 5 years? You know what I mean? If the iPhones, and that's just my example, I'm not going straight for iPhone here. iPhone's just my example. I mean, if iPhones are, say, 1,300 for the flagship now, in 5 years' time, they're not going to be £300-400 cheaper. They're going to be £300-400 dearer. The minute that iPhones can play stuff exactly the same as the consoles, like same fidelity, same FPS, same graphics, ray tracing, all that stuff, you will get your hole ripped out. They will rip a hole in your wallet so deep that it will go straight into your bank account. Because all this innovation, all this new stuff, all this new technology, they have to recuperate their costs somehow, and usually it's the patsy, the people that buy it. So, yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm realistically wanting to go PC, and I'm not saying that's a cheaper prospect, but at least my library's always going to be there with me. Because recently we've had a couple of instances where digital licenses have expired and not been renewed, and digital products which you have bought, which you have purchased, are now no longer accessible regardless of whether you purchased them or not. So the door could actually swing both ways, if you think about it, honestly. Physical media could sort of take a bit of a comeback if this starts happening more often, which, to be perfectly honest with you, is kind of a possibility that it could. I mean, Spec Ops: The Line is the most recent thing off the top of my head, as an example, is gone. It's delisted. If you own it digitally, you can still install it, fair enough, but it's gone. You can't buy it anymore. Now, I don't know if that's right this moment or if it's coming, but it has been announced that it is going because deals or agreements have expired and now no longer legally able to sell the game. And if there was, obviously you can buy a second-hand disc, but that's where the physical side of it comes in. It's like, you're okay, you've got a disc, you should still be able to download the patches too. So, all right, that's good. If you're an all-digital guy, you're screwed unless you've already got it. I feel like this is going to happen more and more over the years. People have asked before about game preservation and stuff like that, and I would kind of argue that unless you keep all this stuff yourself, it's going to be very, very difficult. I would say even 5 years' time, it'll be hard to find a console with a disc drive. I think the next generation, I'm 50-50 that next generation's even going to have a disc drive or not. Just purely because of the FDA leaks. The all digital Xbox Series X version 2. It kind of makes me think that the next gen will be discless completely and lean more on digital sales and Game Pass. Is it a bad thing if you buy all your stuff digital? No. If most of your games you play you just downloaded from Game Pass, then it's a no. If you like having something in your hand, if you like physical media, then you're shit out of luck. If that's the way the industry's going, for whatever reason it is, whether it's your carbon footprint, you know, trying to reduce the plastics that are being used and dumped in the world, because eventually if a game stops working, that's what people do with it. They dump it. They bin it, they recycle it, what have you. But is that good enough reason for people? Like, this is the kind of subject which I miss having one of the guys around to have a back and forward, because I've ended up with more questions for myself than answers, and I've no one to ask. I'll maybe save this topic for the next time I'm on the main show. So, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out of your day to either watch or listen to my show. Stay awesome, and I'll see you on the next one.